Welcome to the Wilson Wealth Show, a thought-provoking show about building wealth in the new economy. Each week, members of the Wilson Wealth team and their guests will discuss how to navigate the world of personal finance, stocks, real estate, and entrepreneurship to help you build wealth in the new economy. And now, here is your host, Ciera McCosh.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Wilson Wealth Show. My name is Ciera, and today I have Ablavi and Maurice with me. How you guys doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Always good. What about you, Maurice?
I am awesome. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Always good to hear. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Today's topic is private school worth it? Now, quick disclaimer, we understand that there are many reasons why people want to send their kids to private school. Perhaps you went, your parents went, you can afford it, and that's great. But today we're taking a deep dive into some common misconceptions about private schooling. We, as financial advisors, are always looking after your finances, and private school can cost as much as a college education. So, is it worth it? So let's go ahead and work through some common questions parents have about private school. These are the ones that are the most Googled. The first being, do students in private school test higher than students in public? Now, right off the bat, when I first Googled it, the answer is basically yes. So let me go ahead and read you guys a little thing that I found. Basically, students in private school were scoring about 3.1 points higher on the ACT test. Overall, we're looking at private schools outscoring their public counterparts for 18 points in 8th grade, 15 points in 4th grade. Overall, quite a bit higher, and that's just at first glance. But I will say I Googled a little bit deeper. And after a while, I found this study that was done by the University of Virginia, where they took a sample of kids going to private school and public school, both with high incomes and low incomes, and found that it was the socioeconomic factors that actually affected the test scores and not the schools themselves. So what that basically means is the lower income students who were in the private schools scored about the same as their counterparts in public schools, and vice versa. Meaning that the only thing that really affected the test scores were the families having generational wealth to begin with to provide, let's say, private tutors or lots of stimulation whenever the kids were between like 0 to 5, which, has been proven is very important for child development. So yes, technically, private schools do test higher, but it doesn't have anything to do with the school and everything to do with socioeconomic status. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, my feeling on it is if you're middle class and your objective is to create generational wealth or build generational wealth, then private school is not matching that objective.
Right.
And that's not something that you should do because you can obviously invest your money elsewhere. And I just feel like if your kid is smart, if they're intelligent, they're going to rise to the top, private school or not. It really depends on the child. And I would say more so with what's happening at home.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, basically the study proved that everything that was happening at home was making a difference in the test scores and not necessarily the school themselves. So these parents were wasting a lot of money on private schooling when in reality, they could just, put a little extra money into some at-home stimulation, maybe some extra stuff to work through, extra school stuff that actually helps instead of just the private school themselves, because basically the curriculum is about the same. We're looking at same curriculum, but private school costs on average $20,000, which is quite a bit. And that's per child, per kid.
Wow.
Yeah. And that goes into like the next question. Parents want to know, are adults who went to private school more successful? And I did a pretty big Google deep dive into this, right? Trying to look up all the most, and I'm looking at this at like a monetary value as far as success goes. Not really, success can be looked at in a lot of ways, but I'm focusing on monetary success, right? So I'm looking at like the highest paid celebrities or people who work in politics or just the people who make the most, the upper 1%, right? What did they do? And it's pretty split down the middle. There doesn't really seem to be a correlation. So like some people who went to public school who are super successful, Oprah, Steve Jobs, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Jeff Bezos. Some people who are way up there who went to private school are like, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. Bill Gates. I forget Bill Gates, but yes. Bill Gates went to private school. You know, we got people like Obama technically went to private school too, but he went on a scholarship, so he was smart beforehand, you know? So I don't know if that technically counts. But yeah, so it's pretty split down the middle. So if you're looking at it from like, okay, I want my kid to be successful. They need to make a lot of money. They need to be successful. They have to go to private school. There really doesn't seem to be a correlation like at all, which is crazy. You know, you'd think there was, but no, the celebrities are pretty split down the middle. But so another common question parents have are, you know, what if the public schools in my area are bad? You know, which is pretty common. You know, it's hard to come by like a really good public school sometimes. Sometimes the public schools in some areas just aren't good. You know, it does happen. But according to another study, it basically would cost significantly less to just move. And that seems like a pretty like basic solution, but it's true. Like financially, it is far better to just move house. Even if you got to leave the state, it's financially better to just move. Because, you know, we're looking at what private school costs, like what, like average $20,000 a year per kid. That adds up, especially if you're going from like middle school to high school. I mean, you're going to have like 3 houses by the time you could have had 3 houses by the time you're done with that, you know? So it really just makes sense to move house. And Ablavi, I'm sure you know plenty about that with your real estate license, right? You have plenty of experience with that.
Sure. I mean, so you just have to weigh your options, right? You have one option where you're going to be spending 20 plus thousand. You have another option where you can live in a neighborhood that your house could appreciate 20 plus thousand. It just depends on which one makes the most sense for you. I have found though, just looking across the board in various states and things of that sort, that in most cases, if you are living in a neighborhood that has what's considered good schools, your house is going to appreciate more than obviously the contrary, right? So right. You can put yourself in a position to gain some equity as opposed to staying in that neighborhood and not. I mean, it's completely a preference thing, but from a real estate perspective, the locations that have schools that are top tier, high ranking, those are the locations that are in high demand, and inevitably the appreciation happens when it's a good market.
Yeah. So more reason to just move into an area with good schools, even if you don't have kids. Sure. Your house is going to go for quite a bit more, right?
Yeah.
But so this next question is for our financial advisor, Marie. Does private schooling make sense for middle class households? Why or why not?
Definitely. And it really depends on the goal of that middle class household. There are people who have maybe a fixed mindset where the lifestyle that they're accustomed to, in this case, middle class, forms the ceiling of the lifestyle they expect. I'm borrowing that from Ablavi, by the way, to give her full credit. And there are others who look at a middle class lifestyle as a foundation for wealth building. If you're in the latter, then private school, unless it's under an extreme condition where you are in a neighborhood where the schools are violent, if you will, there's a lot of gang pressure, drug use, things of that nature. If you aren't in that situation, then private school can't be on the agenda for a middle-class family that's trying to build wealth. That money is best used, as Ablavi and you, Ciera, alluded to buy a bigger, nicer house, or even just a nicer house in a different neighborhood where you can get the appreciation, the resale value, things of that nature. That's an asset that can be handed down to a kid. Children can't inherit tuition. They can't inherit student loans. but they can inherit assets and property. And so for the family that's trying to build wealth, private school cannot be on their agenda if they're truly trying to build wealth.
Yeah. So basically, private school is for people who already have generational wealth. We're looking at people who are, their parents have money. They're good. they can afford it. It doesn't really matter. Then it just becomes it becomes kind of like a legacy thing, But for the average American household, middle class household, it really just doesn't make sense, is what we're getting at, So ultimately, is private school worth it? No, we're not seeing a rise in test scores. We're not seeing a rise in more successful people through it. It makes more sense to move if you're in an area with bad public schools. And ultimately, it just doesn't make sense for middle class households. It really doesn't, which is, who we're reaching out to right now. We're talking to you guys. Anybody who wants the best for their kids and is considering private school, we're just being honest with you and, focusing on your finances, and it just doesn't make sense. Success in private school is not correlated. It's not causation. The generational wealth is the common denominator there. So that's all I got to say. What about you guys?
I agree. And this just plays into the overall theme of what we're doing here, which is definitely helping families build wealth. There is a bit of a trap that people find themselves in once they go down the private school lane, and it's a common trap. It's called peer pressure and keeping up with the Joneses. So for those families who are feeling that the wall's closing in, this is good information, but I can't take my son or daughter out now, what will the neighbors think? Give us a call. We can help you through that. But you'll be happy if you can go against the grain a bit here and get on the right track towards wealth building for your generation and future generations to come.
Fantastic way to end it. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.
Definitely.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Wilson Wealth Show, a thought-provoking show about building wealth in the new economy. Each week, members of the Wilson Wealth team and their guests will discuss how to navigate the world of stocks, real estate, and entrepreneurship to help you build wealth in the new economy. Please join us next time on the Wilson Wealth Show.